Hi, welcome to 3ETV. My name is Margaret Sass. I have three wonderful guests with us, and I'm going to first introduce Annette, who is the leader of the pack, I would say. This is Annette Benson, and these are her leaders of a certain program called Mix. So I'm going to let you kind of describe Mix, because I know I'll get the name wrong from what Mix is titled for.
Well, it's been a great year for Mix. Mix stands for the Multinational Integration Exchange. It's a presidential initiative created by President Mitch Daniels to provide every new international student with a meaningful interaction with a domestic returning student.
So you came up with this title of Mix. I know there's some other terms with it. Can you explain that, like Mix D and Mix In and all those things?
We thought it would just be fun to play with the name. And so if you're a domestic leader in my organization, you're a Mix D.
Okay.
If you're an international leader in my organization, you're a Mix I, but we just say Mixie for quick. And if you're a new international student, we call you a Mix In. It makes choosing which snack to have very easy. You can have trail mix bars, popcorn mix, all kinds of things.
Okay, I like it. So I know the program is kind of new. We talked about this about 6 months ago. So can you kind of describe a little more detail of what this program looks like if no one has heard of it before?
Sure.
Okay.
So as I said, it was the president's desire that every new international student would have this meaningful interaction. And then we had to decide, what does a meaningful interaction look like?
Right.
So looking at just what was already on campus and then linking ourselves to that, we realized that through BGRI, 700 new international students were going to have a meaningful interaction with a domestic student. And another probably 300 would have it through BGR. So on July 1st, we looked at the list, and there were 623 new exchange, transfer, beginner students who had not yet signed up for BGRI or BGR.
Okay.
So we began communicating with them by email, trying to. Not every new student will open an email from a stranger on the other side of the world.
Absolutely, yes.
But each of my students began reaching out to somebody on the other side of the world. So there were 60 domestic students and 30 international students who said, I want to do that. So the international student was paired up with, the international leader was paired up with the domestic leader, so that most students got the best of both worlds.
Okay.
And they communicated with one another until finally, when we got to August 1st, that list was down to about 400. Students had either decided to go to BGR or they decided to go to another school.
Oh, okay.
And so then we began making our plans how we would welcome them to Purdue. And so on Thursday, right before classes started, we greeted them at Stewart Center and tried to see what any of their remaining needs might be. To get a telephone or to get their computer hooked up, or maybe it was to go to Walmart. And I had one leader who I just think is outstanding. She walked 14 miles that day. She wore a pedometer.
Oh my.
And she didn't do it in walking shoes either. She did it in her flip-flops. And so I say that she let her flip-flops do the talking.
Oh my gosh. 14 miles in a day.
Miles.
Wow. So when you discuss domestic, explain what you mean by domestic exactly when you said that.
A domestic student, for all but one of my students, means that they're U.S. born.
Okay.
They might have the appearance of a student who came from another country because their parents did. They might be first generation in the U.S. But they all were born in the U.S. except for one girl who has Chinese parents, and she was born in Canada. And we've made her an honorary domestic student because, yeah, after all, she was just born across the border.
It kind of counts, right?
Right.
Canadian, U.S., same thing.
English was still her first language, and she shared our culture, so.
So, and then I want to go back to BGRI, because a lot of people don't know what that is. They only hear of BGR, so can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. BGRI stands for Boiler Gold Rush International. For 20 years, we've had something called Boiler Gold Rush, which is our orientation program here at Purdue. But in 2012, we created an international orientation just for international students because they were arriving so jet lagged and in need of things that a domestic student doesn't have when they arrive.
Right.
When they cross the ocean, their phone plan suddenly doesn't work. So we gave them this safe landing place for a few days, and we called it Boiler Gold Rush International because it met just their needs to get all those things done so that when they jumped into Boiler Gold Rush, they could be successful. So the good news is that 46% of all new exchange transfer students went to BGRI.
Oh, that's good.
24% of all those went to BGR, and another 15% joined us, for a total of 85% of all new students got that meaningful interaction. It's even better numbers if you take exchange and transfer out of it. Between our three programs, we hit 89 to 90% for those that were new beginner.
Wow. I did not realize that you only started in 2012. I thought it had been going on for a while.
BGRI?
So yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. So it's only really been active for 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. This was its third year, and it was the first year that it was at full capacity. The residence hall that we used can handle 700 people, and 700 registered.
Wow.
That was a big day for BGRI.
I actually remember seeing a little bit of it. That was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So next to you are two wonderful students of Boise State as well as mixed leaders. So Will, I'm going to have you introduce yourself really quick.
Sure. I'm Will Benesak. I'm a senior in the College of Liberal Arts, and I'm one of the mixed leaders, and I'm also a peer advisor at the Office of Study Abroad.
Now, describe what you mean by mixed leader.
I was one of Annette's students that came here a week before classes and helped get the new international students settled in, took them to get phone plans or to Walmart.
So Walmart seems to be a really popular destination,
yes.
Right? Okay. That would make sense. You know, we don't think about that, but you're right. That's probably really true.
But just to break in, we're going to take them to Bed Bath & Beyond in winter also. So it's not, Walmart does not have, you know, like the whole market on our international students. In December, when we do winter welcome, they're going to go to Bed Bath & Beyond.
Now, Bed Bath & Beyond is on the other side of town.
Well, they get a nice lunch first, and yeah, we take them on buses, and it's going to be a nice trip.
Okay,
a nice package.
I think it's a really good idea because we focus a lot on just West Lafayette. And I know that's probably one of your incentive is to cross the river
exactly.
and expose them to Lafayette, because as you guys know that sometimes they just happen to stay in West Lafayette only for the whole time that they're here.
Right.
So, and of course, Walmart is so close by.
Right. But
I like the idea of Bed Bath & Beyond or in the mall.
Right.
The mall could have worked.
Well, it's educational because Shoe Carnival's right next to it. They come without these winter boots that they need.
Oh, okay.
And the mall is right there. So although Bed Bath & Beyond is sponsoring our program or for that day, it's not unheard of that they might cross over to the mall also.
Very interesting. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, but back to my students. They're the hit.
So I'm going to switch over to Taylor really quick. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Taylor Lampy. I'm a senior studying biology, and I was a mixed leader this past year.
So can one of you tell me about how you even became a leader, even though I have a feeling that Annette kind of helped with that process. But can you kind of give me an idea of how you heard about it and why you decided to do it?
Yes, so Annette came to me, she came to a study abroad ambassador meeting, and study abroad ambassadors are just returned study abroad students that promote study abroad opportunities. Okay. So she came to one of our meetings last spring to encourage all of us to join Mix. And I liked the idea, and so I signed up and decided to be a mixed leader.
So you said you already went to a study abroad program, right?
Yes.
Where did you go?
I actually have done 2 study abroad programs. The first was a Sydney internship program, where I did an internship in Sydney, Australia. Nice. And the second one was a London internship program, where I did an internship in London, England.
That's kind of cool. Are you planning on going anywhere else? Well, you're graduating.
I'm graduating in May. I hope to work in an international programs office or a study abroad office at a university.
Very cool. And what about you, Taylor?
Well, I received an email from my freshman year advisor, and she knew that I was interested in working with international students. That was one of my passions. And Annette had, I think, reached out to a lot of advisors on campus. And I immediately knew I wanted to be involved. I'd had a lot of friends that had done UR Global, which was, I believe, the parent organization of BGRI, and I had always wanted to be involved, so it was an easy decision for me.
And how long have you been involved with this program?
Just since last May, I guess, or whenever we had the training. But I have been on my own, I guess, trying to reach out to international students before I started the program.
And you've traveled abroad as well?
Yeah, I studied abroad in Spain last summer.
That's neat.
Yeah, it was really neat.
And you're graduating as well, so what are your plans?
Well, ask me next week and it'll probably be different.
Okay.
But I'm hoping to continue working with international populations, whether it be domestically or abroad. I study Spanish and Arabic, and I'm not really sure where that will take me, but I'm looking into a lot of things right now.
But it's neat. I can really see you as a teacher.
Really?
In the future. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Maybe I'll look into teaching.
Yes, that would be a great position, I think, for you. And you, since you mentioned that you just did training in May, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when Mix actually started, right? The original training of Mix?
I think it actually started in March when we had call-outs.
Okay.
Because I began telling students that I wasn't trying to just start a program, but that we needed to change the culture of Purdue. Mm-hmm. And the students who kind of bought that dream and that vision, that's who decided to go forward. So then I interviewed each one by one. They came through my office, about 100, 110 of them.
Wow.
And when it all panned out, 90 had chosen to go ahead with the program. So then later in April, we did two rounds of training. Mm-hmm. in cross-cultural competence and just team building. I mean, if you think about it, this was going to be the one time these students were going to see each other before they came and did this mm-hmm. monumental task in August.
Right.
And as soon as we got the 2 rounds of training done in the 2 weekends in April, then I had 25 more students say, can I join that organization too? And so then our number blossomed just a little bit more, and we did take in another 25. I guess that's actually how I ended up with the total of 90.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you did the training in April because obviously you all leave during the summer, so you don't really have any opportunity to train. So right when you get back, it's just like, boom, you start, right? Which is pretty intense and incredible at the same time, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So with Mix, are faculty involved at all in this process, or?
They're not involved in the way that the program is currently structured.
Okay. But
we are looking for partners among the faculty who, we hear little rumblings across campus that we're having trouble with cross-cultural competency with our students and that they're just not, well, I hate to say it, but mixing
right.
in the classroom. And so we have found a couple of faculty champions who want to get their students cross-culturally certified. And so they've come to us and said, could you help us match our international population of our students in the classroom with students who are domestic, and maybe the carrot out there is cross-cultural certification, mm-hmm. and you would have some extracurricular activities for them to get them cross-culturally comfortable with one another so that our classroom could change its culture so that when the international student came in, instead of sitting over at a table together, that there would be this sense of belongingness, and that the international student then would have this domestic partner that they're looking for when they enter the room, rather than just the classroom being divided. Right. And so we are beginning to find faculty members who are saying, well, maybe I don't want to give extra credit for that, but maybe the carrot would be something else. And so, like I said, we're just sort of on a search for who would those partners be. We are offering a cross-cultural certification, and we will even tailor it so that if you know that you might have a career in China, that we would match Chinese students and Americans up in our certification so that you even could go to your employer and say, and I did this cross-cultural certification that had a specialty just in Chinese culture or just in Indian culture. And so we're going to try it with our dominant populations first, China, Korea, and India.
Okay.
On the other hand, the international student can walk away with a cross-cultural competency certification in U.S. because although the U.S. student's going to ask you all these questions about your country,
right.
you get to turn it about and ask the U.S. student about their culture.
And the certification, that's currently happening right now with some
Right.
individuals, right?
Right.
Okay. And are you part of that certification, or have you done the certification, or
I
later
have.
on maybe?
I have
I've not
not.
been certified.
No.
But you had some training for working in a cross-cultural type of environment, right?
Yeah.
So Taylor, can you tell me any really good experiences with anyone particularly in the program that you are working with that's from another country?
Yeah, I've had a lot of really great experiences. I befriended another mixed leader last spring. That was her first semester here at Purdue. She's an international student. We have a 4-year age difference. Somehow we have become really, really good friends. She'll probably be coming to my house for Thanksgiving.
Wow.
We just get along really well. And I think bringing her and bringing my other international friends to my house, to dinners with my friends, to tailgates, has really broken a lot of those stereotypes that domestic students sometimes have about international students. They've said to me, wow, I can have a conversation with her or him. So easy to get to know. Like I always thought that I couldn't relate to them on a real personal level. And I think that's one of the best things that this program does, is just forms real friendships that cross country lines, cross language lines, and just are people coming together. And so Nabila has been one of those people, but I've made a lot of good friendships, and that's why I'm really excited about this initiative, is because I think Mix especially wants to build relationships first, and then use that to kind of slowly change the culture. As I get to know their friends, they get to know my friends, and hopefully.
So you're actually an example, because you first met with one individual, you brought her to different U.S. events, like tailgating is a very U.S. thing, unless they do that somewhere else I'm not aware of.
Trying to explain that was so, you think it's normal because you grew up in this, and then all of a sudden you're trying to explain why we do that before a football game. It becomes very strange. It's fun to do that.
Yeah, I'm not even really sure why we tailgate. But anyway, so you bring her there, and then she's introduced to your American friends, and then they're exposed to it with an opportunity that they would have never come across if you hadn't been there, right? And then they kind of go through the process, and I see how it kind of like spreads sort of in a really cool way, but not necessarily on purpose, but it just so happens that way, so that's good. And Will, do you have any good examples?
Well, one of my duties with the Office of Study Abroad is running their Passport Club, which kind of partners exchange students up with return study abroad students. And so we'll do a lot of similar events where we schedule things for somewhat about American culture, or just some fun events to get to know people. So last month we went to the corn maze. We took a trip down to Turkey Run State Park I believe that was the beginning of October. And then our next event is just going to be bowling at the Union. And it's just a way to get students together in order to just have fun and maybe learn something about each other.
How many people usually attend these events?
And depending on the event, we have around 20 to 30 students coming to each event, and it's a mix of exchange students, international students, and return study abroad students.
Oh, that's a really good mixture.
Yes.
So, just out of curiosity, what do they think of a corn maze? Since some people think that's really crazy.
Yes, we actually did the haunted corn maze.
Oh my!
Which was about, I think it was around 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night. So that was definitely interesting, and something a lot of the exchange and international students and people that are not from the Midwest have never experienced.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So it was a lot of fun, and I think a lot of people really enjoyed that.
So you chose to do it in the haunted format,
Yes.
which is people jumping out of the corn. Is that correct?
Out of the corn, and then they had these like houses that you would walk into that had like horror themes. So people dressed up in costumes, doing something unusual or something that meant to be scary.
And they're still willing to go with you to other events after that.
Yes, they are. Surprisingly enough.
I was going to say, because you cannot get me in that haunted house ever. So, and the corn maze by itself in light is scary enough for me.
Yes, I think we redeemed ourselves afterwards. We had a campfire and made s'mores. So
Okay.
maybe we redeemed ourselves a little bit.
That's good. You get any pumpkins? Do they understand the concept of pumpkins, or that we buy them? And that's actually interesting. Are you planning on doing anything for Thanksgiving to expose them to that whole turkey and?
Right now, I think one of the things that we are considering is having a food drive where they can bring in cans and then we'll donate it.
Excellent.
Because that's something that is very common. It's helping other people out around Thanksgiving time. We have considered doing some type of feast, but we're having issues finding a location to cook a meal where we could accommodate 30 people, because I don't think any of our apartments or houses could accommodate that many people.
Yeah, that would be probably pretty challenging.
Yes.
I would think. So, Taylor, you mentioned that you're going to be here. You are inviting some international students over to your house.
Yeah, I live about an hour away, so details haven't been worked out, but I'm gonna see who wants to come. My family's excited about it.
That is really neat. I think that's important. And you mentioned about the service, and this is my background is really about being service orientated and service learning. So does any of this program at all, also you as well, do any type of service projects? You mentioned that you're going to be doing one. Are you planning on doing any more? Are you planning on adding any more to the MIX program, just generally?
We aren't formally going to add it to MIX because out of international programs we do Boiler Out, which does more than 200 service work projects a year. And so if my students wanted to go with Boiler Out and join that cohort, they would be more than welcome. But we won't create another service learning thing within MIX. Yeah.
Okay. And do you plan on doing anything? I know you said the food drive. Is there anything else?
Not at this time, but we would definitely consider something like that.
Okay, good. You'll have to talk to me about that later, because I can hook you up with a bunch of different nonprofits. I would love for you guys to come out. I just want to do a little information on the Boiler Out program, because I think a lot of people don't know about it.
Okay.
So Boiler Out has about 300 international students that actually volunteer in the community, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think it's roughly 300. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that it's an awesome program that people do not hear about, that international students are actually volunteering all the time in the Lafayette area, and I don't think that's emphasized enough. I mean, as a matter of fact, I was working next to them while we were doing the coat drive. There was a bunch of them that came from Boiler Out, and I thought that was absolutely amazing, and they just go and give out coats, and it's a really good experience. So just curiosity, what is your next step with MIX? Is there an ending of the orientation or the program? Does it end at Christmas time?
These students were officially charged to reach out to those students that they were paired with in August for the first 8 weeks. At the end of 8 weeks, they will have either created a friendship on their own or they won't. And so I don't want to be the eternal matchmaker trying to put people together who didn't really hit it off.
Right.
They got their need met, they got what they needed. So, but as you can see just from talking to these students, now that they have that mindset, whether it was through MIX or all the way back to when they were children, they are finding it easier to reach out. And so the friendships are becoming organic. Some of them have really hit it off. And so they're continuing the work without me being their supervisor. And that's what's really meaningful to me. That whenever I say, so do you want to do this again in January for the new international students? They're like, oh yeah, I'm all about that. Can I have that experience again? So we do it again in January, and then it'll be right back to raising up the MIX leaders for fall. But in the meantime, we are offering a cross-cultural certification that allows you to befriend somebody from another country. For 8 hours, you just have these ongoing conversations with people who are from other countries separate from you.
So before we end this great discussion, are you going to have another call out for more leaders? And if so, when is that going to be?
Right. We'll try to make that early enough in the spring that students will have found out whether or not they got BGR, BGRI leaders.
Okay.
Because sometimes those are my best leaders. maybe the student that's a little more introverted, that wasn't able to become a BGR leader, sometimes they're just the perfect match for me. So as soon as those students find out whether or not they got that responsibility and whether or not they got RA, because you can't do both of those things and be a mixed leader. So as soon as those announcements go out, then we will begin recruiting those that didn't make either of those lists.
Well, it sounds like a great program. I cannot wait for it to be really, really active and everyone hears about it. If you want more information on this program or becoming a leader, you look up your name, right? Annette Benson. Please. Under Purdue search and under Mix. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.